Hi, I'm Matt Widgery from mattwidgery.com, and today I've got a very special guest. This is Dan Waters of Dan Waters Creative, and this is part of the series of talking to professionals about how they got into what they do for a living and do the fun stuff and earn a buck off it. So Dan, thank you very much for joining me.
Boatload of money there.
And a boatload of money. If there's any photographers out there earning a boatload of money, could you please leave your comments below and tell us how to do that? I didn't turn up in my Bentley today, but nevertheless, you can earn a good living at it. You can, cut a pretty good life for yourself out of doing what you love and what your passion is. And so I wanted to talk a little bit to Dan about this because, like most of you watching this, Dan started out doing something else and got into photography later on in life. So, Dan, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background and what you were doing before you got into photography?
Right, so yeah. So before I got into photography, I was around about 31, I think, when the idea came to me, and it came to me because I was. I'd been working for big corporations in marketing departments, putting together catalogues, brochures, websites, that kind of thing, for many years, and being part of big companies and doing the Monday morning meetings and sitting there on a Sunday night thinking, Sunday night blues, that kind of thing. And it kind of came to me when I enjoyed, because I put together these brochures and catalogues and whatnot, and I enjoyed the fiddling around with the photographs.
Yeah, part. Right, okay.
And at that time it was roofing, mostly roof, building materials. So I'm like doing brochures on gutters and roof tiles and slates and stuff, and I'm just thinking, but if I kind of don't mind fiddling around with photographs of roofs, then maybe there's something in this, because if it's a slightly more exciting subject, then there could be something there for me. So, and sometimes they actually got me a camera, because they said, "What, you're doing all these catalogues?" And I was doing like a quite big newsletter. It's like 30 odd pages every 3 months as well. And they said, "Well, we better get you a camera because I kept going out. I have to photograph houses with their nice slate roofs or whatever."
Okay.
I thought actually, because it was a little bit like landscapes in a way.
Yeah,
it's
right.
a nice, country cottage with a nice roof and stuff.
Nice.
So I thought it's a little bit like landscapes, and that's kind of where where it kicked off anyway. So
that's really interesting. It's kind of similar to the way I started actually. Like I always loved photography, but in my work, the last job I was doing was working in kind of PR and marketing, and a lot of the time they were too tight to hire a separate photographer. They said, "Matt, you've got a camera and you know which way up it goes," and so they'd send me out to shoot things. And it was only doing there'd be like a press release or a conference, and they'll go and shoot that or some stuff for the website. Fairly small jobs, but that was the bit that I really enjoyed. That was the thing that really sort of decided that set the fire going. And I think it's interesting, there'll be something probably for the people that are watching this, that there'll be one aspect maybe of what they're doing now that there is a little fire that burns inside for that bit. It's just all the other dross that they don't like.
Yep.
So for you, sort of getting into photography, talk about that transition particularly. You had the camera from work, you were enjoying taking some slate roofs, and then at some point that transitioned into this kind of massive business. So like, how did that kind of path take you from shooting tiles to shooting weddings and family portraits and all the stuff you do now?
First of all, I was actually thinking along the lines of doing like nature photography.
Cool.
I've always enjoyed being outside and nature, and so I was kind of thinking of that, and I had the kind of the romantic dream of sort of the David Attenborough kind of going off to exotic lands and photographing things, and then. But the reality was, I'd be at a weekend, I'd kind of sit in a ditch and hope that a badger walked past or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I'm not quite patient enough to sit here and do this. And then I thought, right, okay, an easier route is probably weddings and families and that kind of thing. So, but of course, it takes a little while to build up a wedding portfolio.
Yeah.
And because I was about 30, 31, a lot of friends were starting to get married, so I did get a few together, and then I managed to get the odd one or two weddings, and it was slow initially because I was just kind of letting it happen through sort of osmosis, whereas I didn't really have a particular plan, which is what you need.
Which is what we're going to come on to later on in this interview.
I was just kind of letting it happen naturally, and it just does take a long time if you just kind of let things plod along. You need to think, okay, what's my end goal, and what are the steps along the way that's going to help you get there.
Yeah, right.
So I didn't do this the perfect way, but one thing I had in my favour was obviously my background was marketing, so my website did climb the ranks pretty quickly, and I ended up on the first page of Google pretty quickly. So that was when I started to get a few inquiries, and then it went from there.
If the Dan Waters that sat in front of me now could talk to the 31-year-old Dan Waters and offer him, like, what would be the kind of one thing that you would do, like, just straight away, that nobody told you, and that even, like, probably today, like, there's just not that many people talking about?
Well, yeah, there's a few things here, and mostly it's to do with this thing between you. It's your mindset. It's the way you think, and it's so some of the mistakes that I made, for example, is I thought, okay, well, I'm starting out in wedding and portrait photography. Let's see what all the other wedding and portrait photographers are doing in my area, and then I'll do what they're doing. When an actual fact, what you need to do is look at all the other photographers in your area, and then don't do that. Because if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, then the only thing that really separates you is price.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be doing the same thing as everybody else. You want to look at what they're doing and go, right, I'm going to be contrary. I'm going to say, okay, if they're burning a CD, I'm going to offer beautiful wall portraits at a decent size. In our area, all the family portraits are generally more studio style with a white backdrop. So I don't do that. I go out into the to a location that's perhaps meaningful to the client, where they went for picnics, where they walked the dog, where they got engaged, whatever it may be, and then and do something a little bit more personal in that respect. So it's a bit more bespoke.
One of the other things which I really liked about you, and is as a real differentiator, and it's a brave one as well. So I wanted to kind of like talk to you about that. Is your moniker of the world's most helpful photographer?
So it came about by. Right near the beginning, actually, because when I was trying to figure out what the hell I wanted to do, I came across this guy called Chris Gillibo, and he was going to every country in the world, and he was kind of blogging about his exploits, about trying to get to every country in the world. And I think he's one of only just like a handful of people that's now been to every country in the world. And he was offering advice along the way, things like how to get air miles, the best way of getting air miles and getting discounts, and how you can travel for a pittance and that kind of thing.
Superb.
So he was sharing useful information along the way for people that wanted to know about that kind of thing. And so I was reading about so I followed him for quite a while. In fact, I still am. So I found it quite motivating how people can kind of live outside the norm. You don't have to have a desk job. You can do what you want to do, like he was. And anyway, so I was thinking every country in the world, and that's interesting. Or something, because I love travel, and I thought that's interesting. But also I'm just kind of I want to be helpful. I'm just kind of that. I think it. As a kind of a funny-looking little guy at school and all the way through growing up, life a little bit tough as a little kid who gets bullied a lot. So you think, well, how can you survive? And you kind of try to be helpful and friendly and try and build. So I've got friends from way back, from like 4 years old, 5 years old. So
superb.
I've got many friends that have gone through me a long time because that's kind of that was my way of surviving. Was how can I help?
Just being a nice guy, like a genuinely nice guy,
So anyway, I wanted to kind of marry helpful and with every country in the world. There's no getting away from the obvious, which is do something like a random act of kindness for somebody in every country or from every country in the world. Now I'm not going to every country in the world, so I'm doing it based on what their heritage is. So somebody could be living next door to me and have heritage from, wherever.
Yeah.
My rule is, would they be able to play for the national football team?
Right, okay. It's a good baseline, yeah.
So that's basically how I pitch it.
Nice.
I've all sorts of countries. Afghanistan. I mean, I went down to our local Afghanistani restaurant and
Cool.
To see what I could do for them. The Romanian guys who wash my car,
Awesome.
I brought them a load of Krispy Kreme donuts.
Nice.
So just random stuff. It doesn't have to be
brilliant.
photographic. Often it is, but it doesn't have to be. And it's helped. It's helped me in terms of putting me in situations which are different, fun, and interesting. So it pushes me, and it also, it brands me, because it's like I'm not just saying was myself a photographer. I'm actually kind of doing something really quite unique to try and put a little bit of flesh on the bones, and not just
being genuinely
really, wow, that's amazing.
It is a cool thing. I've never heard of anybody doing anything like this, and it's a fascinating thing, and it does really sort of speak to something really like unique about you, which is that it's not just about the photography; it's about this kind of innate sort of desire to make the world a better place, almost, and like just be nice and leave people in a better mood and the place in a better place than how you found it. And I think that's fantastic. And the other thing I think that really speaks to that is the teaching side of photography that you do, because a lot of, and there's a lot still in photography where people have their own kind of secrets, like close guarded secret formulas about how they make their money and how the business works and how they take their photos and all this kind of stuff. And you're kind of totally the opposite for that. And I mean, talk to a little bit, because you have Get Pro Photo Club. Talk to us a little bit about that and how that kind of feeds into this, because I see that as more like very similar to what you're doing, but like this is specifically for photographers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's mostly about the business side, so it's not so much about, if you want to learn about apertures and f-stops and so forth, then it's not really the place to go. But if you're not quite where you want to be from a business perspective, you're either part-time and want to go full-time, or you're full-time and just not really kind of, you're struggling a bit, then it's absolutely for you. It's specifically like family portraits, weddings and babies, that sort of area, portraiture. So what you'll find is if you go online, a lot of photographers, if they're in the business of selling business information to photographers, they will tell you how to maybe write emails, and they'll sell a product based on writing emails, how to respond to email inquiries. Or they may do a program on selling, or they may do a program on pricing, whatever it may be. But what they don't tend to do is give you a system from A to Z all the way through. Do this, then do that, because if your prices are correct, then but your sales are rubbish, then it doesn't really. But you need kind of a sort of holistic process. And the mistake I made when I was first starting out was I was trying to learn everything from blogs, basically, and I would go from one blog to the next blog to the next blog to the next blog, and I'd try and I'd see, oh well, that seems to make some sense. I'll try that out, and then like 6 months later, I discovered nope, that didn't work, and then you have to start again.
Because it was taken out of context, like that guy who wrote that, and it might have been a solid bit of advice, but like it was part of a program of things that he did, and he's just written the blog, and it might be about, don't set your prices too low, set your prices based on your cost of doing business plus what your profit margin is, like do that, and you go, yeah, that's a great idea. But then when you put all your prices up without having that kind of ability to do the sales and the marketing and getting people in, people are just going to go, well, no, you're more expensive than you were.
Yeah, and then that photographer goes, oh, well, it doesn't work. Nobody's prepared to pay that amount.
My market won't stand it. Like, I live in a poor town, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's all the same excuses come out. But, you've proved, haven't you? Because, we're sat in, I don't know, if any of you guys know Peterborough in the UK, but we're sat in there. It's not the most affluent, to be fair, of regions. We're not sat in the south of France here. But you've carved out a very nice business for yourself here, getting, rates that are 10 times more than a lot of people doing similar things in a lot of cases. And so it isn't the area at all, is it? I mean, you can do this anywhere, right?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's Peterborough itself is a pretty low income, below the national average area, but of course, there's the villages around. There's some
Yeah.
lovely villages around, and of course, there's some nice spots.
Yeah.
And as we know, most photographers are competing at the lower end of the market.
Yeah.
So if you then look at the higher end of the market, there's less competition. So the people that do have the money will think, well, it's either them or them or them. There's only three
There's like
photographers.
three of
that are
them.
focusing.
Yeah.
Whereas there's like a million people competing at the bottom. So
Yeah.
if you can raise your head above the parapet and go, then you'll actually find it a lot easier. And particularly in England, you never have to travel too far to find some decent areas. It's not just about how much money they have as well. It's also, do they care about what you offer? I mean, I was, funnily enough, I had an inquiry, or I went to see a client yesterday, and they are in, literally, if you said, what's the worst part of Peterborough,
Right.
I would have said this area.
Right.
And as I was driving, I was thinking, this isn't going to be my ideal client, but the parents are buying a voucher for this family that I'm coming to see. So they're already buying it. So I have to go. And it was for my little angel's baby plan, where I do 4 sessions throughout the first year of the baby's life.
Brilliant.
So the mother was buying it for them. But they were so into the photography, their family, and that's what really mattered. And they're going to be some decent clients.
So the eagle-eyed amongst you will have just noticed that jump cut, and just before it, you may have vaguely heard a doorbell ringing in the background and Dan hopping off to get something. And this is a really opportune thing, actually. We're just talking about whether or not people these days are kind of spending a bunch of money on photography and that sort of stuff. Dan, tell us about what's been delivered and. What have you got there that's just turned up? Maybe put that there. Yeah. So we can see the whole thing. We move it up and down through the shot. Get a sense of the enormity of this box here.
It's actually an idea I got from a guy called Charles Lewis, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but it's as part of my packages, or some of my packages, I offer what I call a father's pride, and it's a framed portrait from the engagement session of the bride to be.
Yeah, brilliant.
So it's like a secret gift for the father of the bride.
Right.
And,
okay.
So when he turns up on the wedding day, he gets. Often we put it on like a nice easel, and it's like it all covered up, and then maybe just after the ceremony.
Yeah.
Show him the portrait. And,
that's amazing! What a cool idea!
Yeah, put a little card in with it, like, even though there's a new man. This is like from the bride. Even though there's a new man in my life, I still love you so much.
Still being my dad.
Are there going to
exactly.
be tears? Of course.
Of course there are. And then of course the canny photographer will be capturing that to put in the wedding album as well. So
exactly,
perfect.
Yeah. And it's just something that differentiates you, something that other people aren't offering. It's emotional because people think, oh, that's a lovely idea. Now, of course, any photographer, the bride could ask any photographer, could you do a print from our engagement session? But because you've come up with the idea, it shows you care, it shows you're thinking of new ideas, you're creative, and it's a lovely idea, and of course it helps you book more weddings, and of course you make a bit of extra money on the 15 by 10 as well. So
definitely.
That's what that was.
Superb. So that was really good timing. I'm glad that happened. So tell us a little bit more before we go on to the sort of final section where you're going to give us some top tips. But tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved with this. I know we're going to throw some links up to Get Pro Photo Club down underneath this video. But tell us a little bit more about what you get, how to get involved, and why people should be clicking on those links underneath this video.
So Get Pro Photo Club is a membership club, and because when I was starting out, I was popping here, there, and everywhere, different blogs and websites, and just trying to piece all the pieces of the puzzle together from lots of different sources. And I always say it's a bit like a multi-aperture frame. Okay, so let's say you've done a family portrait session and you've got 5 beautiful photographs, and the client wants them all, but they want them all in one frame. They may all be 5 beautiful photographs, but they don't all go together.
Yeah, right.
So because one's like a real close up and another one's further away, and they just maybe different colour schemes and so forth, and it just doesn't work. So it's the same with your photography business. If you go here, there, and everywhere, and we've kind of touched on this already, you're getting maybe they're good ideas, maybe they're not, but you're getting ideas from here, there, and everywhere, and they don't all fit together. So what we're all about is creating a system which one photographer is using. Well, I'm not the only photographer that uses these systems, but it's a proven system where all the different pieces of the puzzle all work together and have been proven to work together. And
so you can literally kind of, if you follow the steps through,
anybody can
make the business better.
You don't need a studio. You don't need to be in a rich city or anything. You don't need loads and loads of gear. It's a simple system that anybody can use. And the alternative is you just have to go hunting around the internet for years on end, trying things, hoping they work, finding they don't,
and wasting so much time. I mean, that's the thing,
So many photographers they end up giving up or burning out because they just think, I just can't. I give up. It's taking too long. I don't understand what to do. I give up. And so although it's a membership club, we do have a flagship product which is called the Four-Figure Family Photography Formula Funnel.
Easy for you to say.
And I didn't have any notes.
Dan's done so well on this. You said it once or twice before.
And so it's that is specifically for family portraits, and it's called the Four-Figure Family Photography Formula Funnel because you can get 4 figures, as in £1,000 in the UK, pounds.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, how many people out there at the moment, like in your heart of hearts, when was the last time you got £1,000 from doing a family? Like, and this is minimum £1,000. If it's a 4-figure, like because you're often getting in excess of that.
£1,000-2,000.
Yeah, for like a family portrait. I mean, this is
so
wild.
A lot of people would be happy with £2,000 for a wedding.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is it.
Awesome.
So if you can start booking, 4 or 5 of those a week, you're doing really well. And so, this is whereas if you're doing 4 or 5 at 150 quid, you're not probably doing that well at all. And people I think forget when they first get into photography that they book it, you get going, you get your first job, it's 200 quid, whatever it is. You think, great, 200 quid for a day's work, that's amazing. But it's not that, because by the time that's your gross. By the time you've taken all your costs out of that, by the time you've taken all the time it took to get that client, how much time it's going to take to get the next client, all the equipment costs and your rent and your mortgage and your phone bills.
They don't all slot together like try getting a family portrait session for a Monday morning. In winter.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to be working 5 days a week.
Everybody wants the same sort of times and hours. So you certainly can. That's why my little Angel's baby plan's there. That keeps me nice and busy during the week because babies, it's inside. It's not weather dependent.
Yeah.
You don't need loads of room.
Babies are being born all the time. So if you want a newborn, then you're not going to wait till like the weather's better to get your newborn shot done because like your newborn's newborn now.
Yeah,
so,
that's a good point. It's like the family portraits can be a little bit that people put it off because there's no deadline. Babies, there is a deadline, but but nevertheless, this with family portraits, it's incredibly lucrative. I do them all through the year in the winter, inclusive, and I talk about how the light is so great in the winter. You don't have to stay up till 10 o'clock at night for the sunset. It's there at 3:30 in the afternoon. You've got beautiful golden light.
Yeah, and think of keep that positive mindset. I know it's a sort of simple thing to say and sounds a little kind of threadbare to say, but it's so true that if you do think about the ways that you can grow your business and focus on that as your kind of way of thinking, you will grow your business. If you're thinking about all the ways it can't be done, you'll train yourself that it can't be done. And then therefore it just becomes self-fulfilling. It's like, I told you it wouldn't work, and so, well, then where does that leave you? Go back to the day job.
Yeah, absolutely. You are the business. There's nobody else to blame except yourself. You are the business. There's no manager, there's no staff, generally.
And the business is between there and there. Like everything that comes out of that business is between there and there. So, this is so important.
Your biggest competitor is in your head.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. You're going to ask me for some tips later, but a lot of it is up there. It's how you're thinking, and you're right. If you keep telling yourself the same negative things, then that's
it will come true.
That's how things are going to pan out. Whereas if you're constantly looking for what can happen and putting positive things in your mind and educational things in your mind and seeing, okay, maybe it can be done. I don't know how to do it at the moment, but I'm told it can be done. These people are doing it, so it must be possible. How are they doing it? How can I do it as well?
And I think this is really important, again, about having this system, because I think a lot of the negativity that comes through our minds when we're kind of just sat on our own and we're trying to figure out a business comes from that sort of unknowing. And so having a system that you can follow, having like a plan, it's going to put you in a frame of mind where, whenever your brain starts to tell you that, I can never do this, but I'm just going to sell my gear, I'm the worst photographer. Like, we all get through that. Like, I know I do as a creative. Sometimes I look at my portfolio and I go, why am I even doing this? My photography stinks. I'm going to give up. It's all over for me now. And then other days you look at, actually, maybe I'm not so bad, and you kind of like get over it. But a lot of it, because if you don't have if you can then go back to a plan and go, right, okay, I'm having a bad day, but I know exactly what I've got to do, like right now, this morning, this afternoon, this week, this month, this year, to get to where I want to be long term. Then you can just go back to those basic building blocks. It's like an athlete training. You might have a shitty day where you're just not getting the same type of times as you were before running, but you know that if you get around that treadmill or get around that track and just put the hours in, you know exactly what you've got to do. A certain amount of cardio, certain amount in the gym. You've got to eat the right things. You've got to do this. It's like a plan.
Yeah.
And if you do those small building block plans, then it gets you to where you want to be.
They're sort of successful habits. The great athletes aren't great athletes necessarily because they're. I mean, yes, they're built for it.
Yeah, like Usain Bolt is always going to be fast, but like it's the fact that he trains for 10 hours a day that makes him faster than anyone else.
Yeah, Ronaldo on the football. I'm told that he trains harder than he trained. I think Alex Ferguson said he trained harder than anybody else. Practicing his free kicks longer than anyone else.
Yeah.
So it's the success habits. What habits do you have which are going to take your business forward? Are you reading educational things about marketing, sales, or do you think, sales is evil, it's disgusting, you shouldn't force anybody to do anything? Well, it's not about forcing. That's your first mistake. If you think selling is about pressure and shouting and bullying people,
that's
then you
terrible.
Clearly don't understand you clearly don't understand what selling is.
Yeah.
So again, it's the habits. What habits do you have which are going to take your business forward?
We've kind of neatly segued, I think, onto the point where we're going to get Dan to give us 5 top tips for new pros and pros that want to get better at what they do. So, Dan, the floor is yours.
Look at what everybody else is doing in your area, and then don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Another one is to not just go here, there, and everywhere, looking at blog posts here, there, and so I've already talked about that as well. So try and that's fine, but just be aware that that's the sort of slowest way of getting to where you want to go. You want to have a system, and learn from just a handful of people as your core source, and then if you want to look for new creative ideas, then by all means scout around the internet and see if you can bolt things onto the side. But start with the system and then tweak it, test things, see if you can improve the system, make it your own. Another thing is again, this is to do with what's going on between your ears. You are not your target market. Okay, you might love photography, but I know how I felt when I was just starting out and I was selling CDs for £150 for family portraits, and my friend spent £400 on some family portraits. I thought it was crazy, but I'm not my ideal client. I've since kind of understand why it should be at £400 or more. Yeah. But and I understand things better now. But at the time, I didn't understand it. I didn't value it. I wouldn't have had the money at the time to do that. And so don't think that. Well, I would never pay 400 or 500 or 1,000 or whatever it may be on family portraits. Then that's fine. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
But of course, if you do start charging these amounts and getting the clients that do value what you do and can afford it and do appreciate it, and by the way, they tend to be the least hassle, those clients. Then you will be able to afford £400 for a family portrait session because you actually do.
It becomes relative, then it's like, actually, it doesn't seem so much now.
On family portraits, this is if you could do one thing to improve your average sales instantly, it would be to show your clients their photographs in person. Don't put them online, don't do a CD, but invite them over to your home or go to their home I invite them to my home, and I have a big screen. You can't see it, but it's just up on the wall there, and it's a frame with a canvas in it, and I project the photographs up onto that screen, and I go through the photographs with the clients, and it's I don't show them like 50, 60, 70, 100 photographs. It's literally about 20 to 30 at the absolute most, because as soon as you go anywhere near 30 and above, people get overwhelmed. They don't know what to choose, and then they divert back to, oh, can I just have them all on CD? I can't decide. Could talk about that for out, and go to the membership site. I have talked about it for hours, so
but it's another good reason to sign up, because it's a huge one. That it really is a good one.
More information on that, or get the 4-figure family photography formula funnel, because there's a huge about 1 hour segment on that. There's 13 videos, by the way, and it's about 4.5 hours in total, and we go through all the different steps. Don't put prices on your website. I actually got an increase in inquiries when I took them off. I've made all the mistakes myself. It's not that I've learned through experience what does and doesn't work. And I used to have all the prices on my website, and the issue is if you're putting all the prices on the website, then what people will do is they'll go, okay, well, we like these 3 or 4 photographers' pieces of work. They're the cheapest. We'll pick them. So if you're talking about family portraits, then have a guarantee. Okay, nobody guarantees their work in the photography world because they're scared too. They think people are going to take advantage of them or something. But have a guarantee. If you're, this is the way I write it. I don't just put bullet point, money back guarantee, because that's boring. People see it everywhere. People are blind to it. However, if you write it as like this, you say, one of the things that separates me from all the other photographers in my area is I offer a money-back guarantee. If you don't absolutely love the images that I create for you, then I don't feel I deserve to be paid. I'll give you all your money back. We'll do another session if you want. And I'll just do whatever it takes to put things right. And if I can't put it right, then you can have all your money back.
Perfect. Well, listen, Dan, thank you very much. I mean, this has been such an informative. It's rattled by this interview really, really quickly, and I really appreciate just the how deep you've gone into some of this stuff. It's amazing, and I know that a lot of you guys will have lots and lots of questions about sort of individual aspects of what we've talked about here. And I'd really urge you to sort of go through and have a look at the system, and because that will give you all the answers that are in there. And we can only touch on so much, right? Like, we'd be here for like kind of days straight talking to get through. But you can go on there, have a look at all the information, and get all of the stuff. It's all unpicked, in a really sensible way and laid out for you, so you can follow this stuff through, and it will make a difference to your business. So. Go to danwaterscreative.com to find Dan. Go to getprofphoto.com.
Getprofotoclub.com.
To get the membership club. There's a bunch of stuff on there, and all the links will be underneath this.
We're going to include the 3 ebooks as long as you get the 4-figure family photography formula funnel by the end of this month. Then we will give you the 3 ebooks, which is photography sales techniques which won't make you feel dirty inside. So that's all about not, because a lot of people have this terrible view of salespeople, and because we all think of selling as like those double glazing salesmen that ring up and talk really, really fast on the phone and talk over you and just
talking through a script and won't let you go.
All that rubbish. Or maybe a Moroccan rug salesman who's like chasing you up the streets, that kind of thing. So that's not selling at all. So we'll show you exactly how it's actually. I call it customer service before they've bought. It's about finding out what people want, how you can help them, So that's all about that. So that's one book. Another one on pricing, photography pricing techniques, so you can earn a great living despite all the competition out there, and then finally, how to book more weddings despite how to book more weddings at higher prices.
Awesome.
That tells you exactly what to say when people ask you. Or ask you the awkward questions, or try and stall you, like, we need to go away and think about it, or that's more than I wanted to spend. What are you going to say? If somebody says that, are you going to just say, oh, right, okay, well, nice talking to you.
Yeah,
I'm here if you
yeah.
change your mind, or I'm here if when you need me.
Yeah.
Because you can convert many of those people who are kind of stumbling around. They may be on the fence, or maybe they don't quite get what you do yet. But yeah, the photography wedding sales techniques. That's the third book.
Brilliant
And,
stuff. So
yeah.
book up before the end of the month.
Yes.
And all three of those amazing books will be included for free,
Yes.
gratis. And the thing itself, it's $39.99 in pounds. That's going to be $50, something like that in America, I guess. Something
Yeah, a bit
in
more,
that
probably
order.
about maybe 60. So
$60, $70. I mean, like, for what you're going to get out of this is amazing. We've all seen these kind of online courses and things in photography that can be just so much money, and so to be able to get all of this value, all of this content, and you've seen from Dan the caliber of the stuff that's in there. He's a really good guy, and he knows exactly what he's talking about, and he's living and breathing it every day. He's not just a trainer that's kind of making his money solely through training. He's out there, in the trenches. He is a photographer. This is what he's doing. This is how he's paying his mortgage. This is how he's paying his bills. And he's now imparting that to you guys, with a tried and tested method. So, for 40 quid, you can't argue with that. It's price of dinner. So
yeah, I mean, exactly. If it's 40 quid is if you don't think your career is worth 40 quid, then it's not, it's probably not the career for you. You obviously don't.
Yeah.
You're not passionate enough about it, I guess. And
yeah. Well, listen, Dan, that's been amazing, and check out all his stuff because it's brilliant. Links all below, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.